What if everything you've been told about success and security is actually holding you back from true freedom? I'm Stacey Lucis, and this is Beyond the Quo, where we challenge norms, dive into the real stories, and discover what it means to live life on our own terms. So, for the listener today, like, what's on the midlifer's mind? There are three things that I think I'm hearing a lot of. One, feeling stuck. Two, this concept of financial security in midlife. Do I have enough for when I retire? Am I going to have enough for my plans? And then feeling this pressure to conform to traditional roles, or, bearing the weight of people's expectations. And so we're going to dig into that today. And I wanted to give you some stats that kind of back that up. One, studies show that 70% of midlife adults feel stuck in roles that don't align with their true selves. More than 50% of single parents in the US cite financial independence as their biggest challenge. And nearly 60% of women in midlife feel pressure to conform to these definitions of success that are pretty outdated. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Sandra Soriano, founder of Unapologetic, a lifestyle brand rooted in resilience, self-truth, and financial freedom. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So in this episode, Sandra's going to share some powerful transformation stories with us, where she transitioned from a 23-year marriage where self-sacrifice was second nature to redefining herself both as a single parent and as an entrepreneur. Those two things, very critical, right? Sandra founded Unapologetic to reflect the values that define her journey, especially as a single parent raising two strong young men. God bless you. I have one strong young man. He is wearing me out, right? Her journey speaks to the realities that many of us face in midlife, finding ourselves on paths we didn't fully choose and feeling the weight of societal expectations. Sandra's story is one that I hope is going to show you how you can also move beyond the boundaries of traditional definitions of strength and success. And we're going to talk a lot about authenticity. And that's what Beyond the Quo is all about. How do we step out of beyond the status quo and kind of do our own thing? So before I jump in, I always ask everybody the same icebreaker question. Your brand's motto, I love: no boundaries, no expiration dates. It aims to inspire others to conquer life's challenges and live without limitations. So if you could rewrite one rule of success, like, what would that be?
You just caught me right off guard, right off the bat. Great. Thanks so much. If I could rewrite one rule of success, I would have to say that there are no rules.
Oh.
There are no rules.
I kind of love that.
There are no rules. Period.
I'm going to have little mints next time to give prizes. Tell me
yes,
why.
Ma'am. I just feel like society has so many rules and expectations and boundaries, especially for women, minority women in this age group, which I won't say what my age is, but in this age group, that it's not necessary. I think that's what ends up intimidating so many individuals, is they see these rules and they see these expectations, and instantly, right, in your mind you think, there's no way. There's no way I could do that. There's no way I could see myself doing that. And that's not true. So if you remove all of the rules that are in your mind or that society has actually pushed on us, then you have a blank slate. Yeah. And you make up your own rules. You make your own expectations up.
Yeah. One of the most powerful things I've come to embrace in the last couple of years, especially as a full-time entrepreneur, is this concept that I get to unmake these rules. And we're not saying go crazy and do whatever you want to do, right? But there are certain things that we think we have to have racked and stacked in order to make a big move.
Correct.
Or even a tiny little move closer to where we're going to be. And we want to wait.
Yep.
And so a lot of us are feeling this kind of pressure of, I want to wait till I'm ready, but also, oh my God, time's running out.
Right.
Am I going to be where I want to be, especially given the kind of financial pressures we're feeling right in midlife?
100%.
So I love that.
I feel it has, do you remember when we were thinking about having kids and everybody was always like, you're never going to be ready.
Yeah.
You don't wait until you're financially ready, emotionally ready.
I have the house, I have the job. Yeah.
No, it just happens, and instantly you become a parent, and you become a good parent on your own. It wasn't, a book that you read or a rule that was set that you must be pregnant by 28
But also we bought into this kind of fairy tale that you fall in love, you get married, you buy a house, you have a kid. And I notice, like with my sisters, my youngest sister is 10 years younger than me, and she's totally doing things her way. And I got married at 25. No regrets. I've been married for 21 years. But honestly, sometimes if I had a do-over, given the right mix, I would be like, would rethink some things, right?
100%.
And so I love that we're having this kind of moment here. So we talked about in the beginning, for those of you listening to some of those stats I dropped, 80% of women will be solely responsible for their finances at some point in their life. That is sobering. And, this underscores this conversation that I'm sure you've had with around the theme of financial confidence, making investments, making big moves, taking risks that involve your money, having a relationship with money. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I wanted to kind of lean back on your single parenting. We were talking a little bit before the podcast started about, I'm in a 2-income, 2-parent household, and I take for granted that I have this teammate I can tag in for everything. And on the days when I travel or he travels and we are single parenting it, I'm in a full blown, it's a lot of anxiety trying to do all the things. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But nearly 60% of single mothers are the primary or sole owners in their earners in their household. And while entrepreneurship is becoming increasingly popular for single parents, both because of flexibility and empowerment, only 12% feel ready or secure enough to start. And I know for me, it took me 10 years from the concept of doing something my own to doing that. So my question for you is, take us back to that moment you decided to make that brave leap, not only as a single parent, but into entrepreneurship.
Ooh. Well, I was married, like you said, 23 years, and I married a college sweetheart, like you, at 25. Now that I have kids that are 26 and 22, I look at them like they're not even close to being, it's crazy for me to think of that age and then the age that I was. But there came a time in my marriage that we were just friends, and he was traveling Monday through Friday. And I was finding myself lonelier in my marriage than I thought I would be out. So I always thought in my head, I would rather be by myself and lonely than married and lonely. Plus the fact I always had in the back of my head, I'm raising men. I'm raising young men. And I don't want them to think that this is what a relationship should be. Like a friendship, yes, but it should have more than that. Passion and love, etc. And when I made that decision, to file, my ex-husband was in shock because I lived very well. I was taken care of. I lived a very nice life. Had nice things. And I also stayed home for 15 years with the boys. So I remember one of the comments that he had made, which was the last comment I had to hear, was, what are you going to do? You're a minority 40-year-old woman that has not worked in 15 years. What are you going to do? And I come from West Indian parents who were also thinking, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Just sit back. Has
Sandra
he beat you?
They're giving you the reasons.
100%.
And all of these reasons are traumatic. They're not even happiness. Are you happy? No. It's are you being abused?
Right.
Did he cheat on you? I can imagine.
And not even did he cheat. Did you find him? Did you walk in on him? Because cheating would have been you know what?
He could always say it wasn't me.
Exactly. Right. That was someone else. Right. But I literally thought, wow, I'm going to have to do something. And that is not what I want my kids to envision or to marry in the future. I want them to look for a strong woman as well. They can hold her own. And I did. I filed, and as everyone always thinks, how am I going to do this? How am I going to keep my kid in private school, my youngest? How am I going to keep the other one in college? What am I going to do for work? I was so overwhelmed. I was this big. It's funny to me that the boys say to me, like, we never saw you cry. We never saw you, like, sweat. We never, because I get, and my friends will tell you that, I get very, I will write down, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm passionate about. I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick to it. And there is no other option but success.
Yeah.
I did end up finding a job, through several different jobs, and I kept the house until my son graduated. By the grace of God, my youngest is naturally smart, so he's been on scholarship, and it's really helped me, and my oldest has been amazing. I've raised amazing young men. That, hands down, we could say anything. I have never second-guessed what kind of men I've raised, what kind of
I'm hearing a couple of things here. So one, making a decision like this doesn't have to come from a place of torture and pain and devastation, right? No. Which I think a lot of people make some big decisions like that when they've hit rock bottom, right? Right. The second thing I'm hearing is a little bit of that mindset shift, which is, they're counting me out. Parents, people, even the ex, right? They're saying to me, and some of them maybe not so subtly, what's your plan? How are you going to do this? And doubting that resiliency and that kind of strength.
100%.
And the third thing is really stepping into this role where you're not only mom and kind of homemaker and do of all the things, you are a decision maker, boss lady stepping up in a different way, which, for some people makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And they almost are just watching to see what happens. Yep. And then the other thing I heard you say, which I love, is having a plan and having a runway, trying new things, right, with the different jobs 100%. That you, right? And so if people are looking to distill some kind of recipe from some of these conversations, that's how I learned before I made the big leap also. And I love that in terms of similarities, when I left corporate, the house wasn't burning down.
Yeah.
My health was. But it was kind of the questions like, are you sure? Because I was walking away from high six figures. I was leaving Washington, D.C. Like all of these things that felt so monumental.
Right.
But that little voice inside what I'm hearing you and me and so many people, that little voice, it's irrevocable.
Your gut.
Yes.
Your gut. Follow your gut at all times.
And you were in your 40s or just hit 40. That's when it happened for me too. Wow, can I tell you a funny thing? And listeners, if you hear this and you are geeking out and want to do research, feel free and send me emails, right? But I heard that as we get older, women in particular, and we enter this menopausal zone, our testosterone hikes up and our estrogen drops. And testosterone is what men have been fueled on forever. But here's where we come into this kind of badass space where we're like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to do me. And blah, blah, blah. And you are making stronger footsteps towards what you want, which also is diabolically in contrast to what we've been doing our whole life.
100%.
Just pleasing everyone and sort of the self-sacrificial thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I never, and I don't regret any of it, but I never went to college thinking I'm going to put my degree on hold so I can raise kids and stay home. In retrospect, what a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I would not have the relationship with these young men that I do now.
For sure.
Ever, if I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Plus the fact, when I filed, we would talk about health, I had 2 heart surgeries right after that. I had cervical cancer, so I did a full hysterectomy.
Wow.
Like, things were hitting me one by one. And as always, I was always in the back of my mind thinking, they're watching me. The boys are watching to see how I react to this.
Yeah.
And you pick yourself right back up and keep it moving. By the grace of God, and also, trying different jobs, I found that intellectual disabilities for my day job was what I wanted to do. I've always been in the disability world. I love the kids. I love the young adults. I found a software sales position, loved it. And till now, this is, what I'm doing. No. Would I have thought that? You would have told me that 7 years ago. I would have been like, software sound.
Yeah.
I could barely turn on my computer. But this is it.
Yeah. And, people talk a lot about a job, like a job and a career.
Right.
And there's something to be said for, I think the spiritual way people say it is finding your true calling. And then the other way that's palatable, right, for the people that are not as woo, would probably be finding your vocation. And I think it's such a magical place, which is another weird word for people, but I find it truly, oh my God, what's the right word for me? It's like I came home to myself when I married, working with women in a specific demographic, doing specific things and leading workshops and like coaching and doing all the things. I felt like I came home to myself.
That insane. Maya Angelou says that.
Yeah.
Like, when you know, and even Oprah has like that aha moment.
Yeah.
You do get that aha.
Yeah, you have a stupid smile on your face for no actual reason.
We actually like what we do. I know that this is where I'm going to retire. I know it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it with the past jobs. I feel it with this one.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So talking about kind of this, you had the heart surgeries and the hysterectomy and all of those things. 40% of women say that they often put others' needs above their own. And as we've always known, especially with postpartum and all of those things, but now with this significant emphasis on mental wellness and sort of reclaiming that space for just breath work, for crying out loud. Like, how does moving from self-sacrifice to self-empowerment, what does that look like for you? And then how can women that are struggling with, well, that's easy for you to say, tap into their own sense of power to do that on their own in tiny little steps? You know what I mean?
That's such a good question, because honestly, I think years ago, I used to feel bad even as a mom, like taking time for myself. Bad in the sense that if I went to the spa or if I got a massage or if I did a girls' weekend, I always had that feeling like I'm missing these games. I'm missing, something back at home, or what if they need me? Or the house never burnt down. They were fine. They were eating nuggets and pizza.
Yeah.
They were fine. It's taking my health into consideration, both mental and physical health. And as these things were happening, I was thinking, no, I have to feed my soul. I have to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Just like they say in the airport or in the airplanes, you put your mask on you first before you put it on your other individual. And I think that's the same thing for us as resilient human beings, is to think about our mental health first and foremost. I fell into postpartum. People would never had thought that for me, because I'm such an upbeat it's hormonal.
Yeah.
It took the rug out from under me.
Yeah.
I got on medication for years after that, because I was petrified of it happening again and getting off. But it's really just kind of grabbing your britches and saying, me first does not mean selfish. Me first means actually I'm going to be a better mother, a better sister, a better daughter, a better individual and partner. And I've done little things just like meditation and breath work and going away. I went to Bali 2 weeks by myself for my 50th birthday. I like to travel by myself.
Me too.
I don't get lonely. Like some of my friends were like, why would you? To me, I found out so much about myself every time I get away by my lonesome. Party of one. And these things, these little steps, I mean, I'm big on writing things down just because seeing things in black and white are completely different for me. And every little step you take, no matter how minute, is a step. It's a step in the right direction. Like, you have to give yourself grace and compassion for that. Like, a lot of people get really down, like, but I'm not where I wanted to be, at 53 years old. No, you're better. Were you better than you were last week?
Yeah.
Then you're better.
I feel like a lot of people think that when we talk about this concept of balance and holistic strategies that ignite other parts of us to sustain entrepreneurship or doing our own thing or being badasses, I think they underestimate how much of the equation that has to be successful.
100%.
Because what got a lot of us here, and I'll speak for myself and maybe a lot of our listeners, is some degree of, in this status quo, my whole thing is how do we get beyond that, is burnout, anxiety, complacency, confusion about what does my next second act look like, or for some of us our fourth act, who knows? Because reinvention is a thing, right? And this dynamic, especially I'm in my 40s, in our 40s and 50s, and maybe even 30s, of I'm running out of time, or I've been doing it this way forever. How can I start over? And I want to challenge that assumption that you have to start over. It really is repackaging all of these things that you've done and taken and who you are, and almost be your own hype person.
100%.
And fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with what you love to do. Fall in love with self-care. Fall in love with the body that you deserve, the relationships that you deserve. And not feeling like that's some kind of non-virtuous. Look, anywhere I go, I am.
That's it.
You're your own home forevermore.
Yep.
Sometimes our kids will leave us.
Yep.
Or people that we love, or our parents, or whatever. You are with yourself forevermore. And so I really want to kind of talk a little bit about transforming into entrepreneurship. Talk to me about Unapologetic and that brand. I love the word. That's my whole vibe. Mm-hmm. And what does it take from a fire perspective, right? Like fired up Sandra to do that and hold a line for the things you just talked about, the meditation and the self-care and loving you and staying true to you, right?
You know what I love? Like when you said people think they're starting over. I got that out of my repertoire. I got that out of my mind. I always thought I'm taking off. I'm not starting over. I'm taking off for where I am.
Yeah.
And where I was, that you can ask any of my friends, they think it's hilarious because I've always lived my life unapologetically with everything. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning because I like to work out or meditate. And so that means that when I go out with my friends, 8 o'clock, I'm fading. 9:30, I better be in bed. And they find that hilarious. Yeah. But to me, I'm like, unapologetically, like this is how I live. The concept itself was very much also from being married to getting on dating apps and trying to find folks was horrifying to me. Like I always thought I would never, like I'll meet my guy like at Whole Foods. Not so much.
Yeah. He was having to his groceries delivered. Yeah. He wasn't physically.
He was Instacarting.
Yeah.
He still is. I'll find him.
Right.
But when I first started getting out there, I would be the first one telling my friends who are divorced, like, no, I run a guy's number to make sure I'm safe, to make sure that I have, everything taken care of and I'm not putting myself in a dangerous situation. Yeah. And most of them are, you tell them that you're running, absolutely, unapologetically. I'm telling them, by the way, can I have your number? Because I'm a single lady. I'm not going to meet you out anywhere. And if I go out on a date 1, date 2, and I don't feel that connection that I require, you're going to get that from me. You're going to get the text or the phone call and say, listen, you're an amazing guy, but for me, I'm not going to continue going on, because plenty of my friends also and individuals that I speak to are like, I'm just going to keep going on because maybe it's going to turn into, no, if I don't feel it night 1 or 2, I'm just not going to do that to either one of us. A friend of mine had told me, like, you live so unapologetically, like, why don't you make this into something? Which I've always seen those huge sweatshirts that the college girls wear, because my boys are that age, and the beanies, because my boys have curly hair and would always have on a beanie. And my friend had told me, like, why don't you look into starting that? And again, instinct tells me, like, there's no way. Like, I'm working already full-time, 40 to 50 hours, like, how am I going to put something else on my plate? And I have the boys and I don't want to miss this. And something told me, like, just do it. Take a little step. Contact the company we were just talking about. Figure out what my little logo is going to be. I've always done this forever.
That's like such a Caribbean thing.
And that is.
I don't know.
Good or bad? Was it you?
Yeah.
That's always been my thing, and I had that in my mind,
Yeah.
and I was giving it way too much thought. What's he going to look like? And I just thought, no, just a stick figure. I just want
You know what it
versatile.
reminded me of? You know, 7-Up at one point. I think it was 7-Up. It was Fido.
I don't remember
Oh
that.
my gosh. I'm going to have to Google
Was
it.
he a stick figure?
Yeah, he was totally a
it.
stick figure. I'm like Googling right here.
7-Up.
Continue.
You're so funny. But I ended up coming up with a line, coming up with something very simple. I wanted it universal. I wanted it for men, women, children, old. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I know. I know.
Okay. Any young people here who don't know what Fido is?
With the hair.
Just,
I love it.
Yeah. I used to
Google
draw
that.
him. Google that. No, that's what it reminded me of. And it took me right back to being a teenager in kind of that rebellious stage. And I feel like it's a word, unapologetic, right? Let's kind of lean into words and the power, you know. So Sandra and I met, I was doing a workshop called Own Your Power for the Greater Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce. And I asked about the word power. And I think it was about 20-something women in the room. And everybody had like a different flavor of what that word,
I love that.
right? Some people were super intimidated by it. Some people were nervous about the word power. Some people leaned right in and like, hey, that's like ice cream to me.
Right.
I feel like the word unapologetic, there's a bravery and a courage behind. I'm unapologetically stating my truth or the decision, and this is why I'm going to proceed in this way. And then there's like the negative connotation of somebody just being a jerk,
Right.
and like not owning their jerkness, right? And so I do think that the word unapologetic in this context is super empowering because it's owning that space and that fire and like your voice in particular for women of color.
I love that.
Unapologetically stating your truth and then being okay. And this is another thing we'll talk a little bit about with how people interpret, because people will interpret and assume based on their own perspectives.
Right.
You and I are going to walk away from this podcast episode and we're going to have totally different opinions about how this went. Meanwhile, we're sitting here having the same conversation, right? But unapologetic to me is such a like sexy word because, you know, I envision like Wonder Woman, like clang like with the bracelets and just fierce, right? Not apologizing or saying I'm sorry 900 times.
The I'm sorry's. And it's not, we're seen as the B word, right? When
Yeah.
we're unapologetic. That's not what it's about. It's not having any
You
regrets.
can say bitch. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Bitch.
Don't get me started. But literally, it's not having any regrets, good, bad, or indifferent. You're learning from that. Did you learn from it? Great.
Yeah.
Don't apologize about it. Unapologetically as well. In your relationships, in your work. You talk about being a woman of color so that it doesn't come with that stigma of angry Black woman, that I'm so strong, I'm fierce. No, I'm a type A personality. I know what I want, and I will not settle. It's about not settling, not in your life, not in your career, not with your children.
Yeah.
I don't settle. I settled before. I'm not going to do that the second half of my life.
Yeah.
And if that means that I am not with the person that I'm supposed to be with right now, my partner for the rest of my life, then so be it. I'm with me. Right now, I'm with me, unapologetically living my life. I'm truly, truly happy, truly blessed. And I want women to feel like that empowerment that comes along with that. You don't need
Permission.
I love that. Exactly. You don't need permission.
And, you know, we talk about this stat, 12% of women,
Wow.
only 12%
Crazy.
think they are ready. And it's this, and, you know, we bristle when they're like, oh, I don't need to ask for permission. But deep inside, you want to ensure that the choices that you make are going to pan out.
Right.
And life doesn't work like that.
And I think we look at the huge picture instead of
Yes.
just a little bite. I
Yeah.
have a friend that is a survivor of domestic violence, and she was telling one of my friends that she wanted to always start a support group. But when you start looking it up, right, you're like, there's a support group in Broward and West Palm. Forget it. And my friend said, no, they don't have what you have. You want to hold a safe space, and you've been through it. Start small. Do it at your home. Do it at a park. Do it at, and people don't think that. People have to think, like, when I thought Unapologetic, I wasn't thinking sweatsuits and hats and truckers and no. I just thought, let me start with sweatshirts. And I did. I added trucker hats. I did. We're doing beanies. Now I did a collaboration with my son's solar company, Spartan Solar. We did that collab because he loved the little guy. Now I'm speaking to other companies that are like, wow, this is really interesting. I like what it stands for. That's where things organically grow.
Yeah.
It's don't let anything overwhelm you. The time is now. It's not, let me think about when, it's today. Yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
And if we can all bind together as women, and also it's having a group that supports you, right? Like that want you to succeed. I want all my friends to succeed, regardless what they're doing, what they're in. If somebody said they want to do Unapologetic too, I'm down with it. Let's do it.
I want to talk a little bit about that some more. This concept of a community or a network, whatever people want to call it. It's your tribe. It's the people that have your back. And I do this funny thing in my life now. I'm like laughing. I'm like, should I share this? Well, I'll probably share much worse than this. I do like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 friendship in my head now, because I used to be the person that gave a lot and then would kind of fall flat if it wasn't reciprocated or right? Like, and I had to get clear with myself about, hey, if you're going to show up as a friend, this is how you show up as a friend, regardless of. That said, you can't show up this way for every Jane, Janet, and, Janice. And so my tier 1 people are, if I get sick right now, you and I are talking and I just like choke and like fall out, Vina Marie is going to be like, oh, call these 4 people.
Yeah. Right.
And they come get my kids. They'll pick my car up. Like, these are my tier 1. And so I go to bat for them.
100%.
Right? You get to like physically call me and I'll pick up the phone.
Reciprocated. Very much so.
Tier 2, we do, again, very deep friendships. But this isn't the you're on my last will and testament.
Right.
Right? And I think if we get really transparent with ourselves about that it's okay to have these levels of friendships, and then if you want to move them into a different playing field, do that, but have the conversation with them.
100%.
Right?
And people get very hurt.
Yes.
That they
aren't tier 1.
Subconsciously, they're like, what's that?
Oh my God, am I tier 3?
But that's like, I'm the one in my group that sets up all the happy hours.
Tell me how this works for you. If you had to conceptualize a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 for as a single parent, but also entrepreneurship.
Already know. My tier 1s, not many.
We're not going to call the names. I don't want to start
No.
in alphabetical order.
But literally, my tier 1s are probably 3 friends that I have had since middle school.
Yeah.
Those are my ride or die. And my kids know who they are. They also know if they're worried about me ever, that's who they will reach out to.
Yeah, I love
that's
that.
how I know that they're tier 1. If I trust you with my boys, implicitly,
that's a good litmus
question,
test. Yeah.
100%.
Or your pet, right? For
or my
those
pet.
right.
Yes.
Litmus test, pet, parents,
you
kids.
pass that, good. You're in. Other than that, tier 2 and tier 3 for me is kind of like interchangeable, because some of my tier 3 friends will do tier 2 things that might get you into that.
Oh.
Into that.
Oh, you bought me that Chick-fil-A
lake. There you go.
breakfast.
You got me, and the sauce. You're in tier 2. But I mean, we laugh about it, but it's so true because it's very important.
And I want to be clear in case we get like, I would love to get some hate mail, because that means I've arrived. But this isn't, do for me and I will.
No.
This is a quality control conversation where if you are everything to everyone, and one, you're nothing to yourself, but two, you're just scattered and everywhere with every friend.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Do you know what I told one of mine in particular? That I moved to a tier 4, I believe. I don't make anyone a priority that does not make me a priority.
And that is so hard, especially I think, and I'm from the Caribbean also, when you grow up in family, sort of, you have to be this way for your family. And it's an expectation. And when you step back from that and you start putting boundaries up. Oof.
Boundaries are unheard of. Unheard of. And it's up to us to be able to put them. And it's very difficult to teach this generation, as I'm teaching my sons, to lay down the law with work, with friends, with your loved ones, because nobody should be able to come in and out the way they see fit. You're teaching somebody how to treat you.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
Yeah.
Once you've lost somebody's respect or vice versa, very difficult to get that back.
Tell me about with the boys. Like, how is parenting different now? But also, what do you hope they take away from you watching you through this experience of reinvention, but also you haven't fully come into your own yet? Right? And so what do you most wish them to know? And for parents or people that are around young people, mentoring them and stuff, what's kind of on the other side of the status quo, doing the things you're doing? What is something you deeply want them to know about this experience and what they can take from it?
I think something that's so cliche that I always used to hear people say is that it can't rain forever. And I used to always be like, yeah, I know.
I got like you.
I would always
I think you're moving to tier 3 or 2 here.
Just for that. We'll talk at dinner. But I'm always trying to enforce to the boys for them to see that at your darkest time, or when you think you're the lowest, you're doing terrible at work, you're not hitting your quota, your friends seem kind of off, like you don't have a person, or you went through a breakup, your business is not, like everything just feels like a weight, right? Always know that it could be the next second that something small, something wonderful happens, or that call happens. It is not going to stay like that permanently.
But I think we also have to get comfortable, especially as women of color, especially as strong females, especially as in middle age, when we're sort of still trying to figure things out. We have to get comfortable magnetizing joy and gratitude.
I agree.
And that is something that I don't think and wins. I will go through, like last month, I had so many wins. It just felt like I was eating Halloween candy all day. Like it was so yummy. But I didn't appreciate it. I didn't stop to be like, oh, look what you did. Nothing. And, I went to see my my sisters and so forth in Washington, and a couple of friends this weekend. And they, they haven't seen me in about a year and a half. Some of them were longer. And they were like, all of this like kudos and high fives. And it made me squirmy a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, like you have to sit in this pocket and absorb this. Just you've earned it. And I think that is something that is so powerful when you learn to just have the gratitude, kind of to your point, that you recognize the smallest things.
And sit in it. Yeah. Because if it was something negative that would have happened.
Oh my God, we would have regurgitated that 1,700.
Like, yeah, 100%.
Calling tier 1, 2, 3, 4 to talk about it. Ridiculous.
Conference call. But I also want them to sit in those times and give yourself and say, yeah, you know what? I give myself until the end of the week. And then I'm going to pop back up and get it moving again. Like I want them to be able to empower themselves when I'm not going to be around for them. That to me, kind of like that self-motivation, that find it within yourself. That's why I think meditation is so important. I tell them, like, sit in the quiet, like sit in the uncomfortableness of it all. Yeah. But also know when I'm not there, you're going to be able to think about that and be like, I got this. Yeah. Like, I got this.
The one I was at a Tony Robbins thing a couple of years ago, and he said something about everything you need is within you now. And I went home and I took out my brightest red lipstick and I wrote it in cursive, which is a dying art, by the way.
On the mirror.
Everything I need is within me now. And I totally live by that. And that's what I want my children to know is we're out here thinking we got to have the right resources, trust fund, right? The right friends, the right conversation, the right Instagram post, like the right reel, whatever. Really, if you sit in pocket and in silence with yourself and listen to what you want and write it on paper. There's something about things being tactile.
I love it.
Yeah, write it out, read it, like listen to it, repeat it. A lot of times if I have like a big speech or something, I will record myself, even if it's monotone and I'm tired, I will record the speech. And then in the car before I go, I'll just play it.
I love that.
Yeah. So just get really comfortable with yourself and some of the things that you love and pull those closer and magnetize kind of that energy that you want. Because it can't always be hustle culture.
Exactly. And I tell them too,
Yeah.
if you don't change, you're choosing.
Yeah. No is a choice.
Like 100%.
Yes,
And get
yes.
comfortable in saying it without regretting it, without having second, no, I can't go out. No, I can't do that. No, I will not take on more. No, I am tired. I'm just doing me. Like when people don't like to hear that. I'm not accepting your invitation to do this because guess what? I'm choosing me. People don't like to hear that you're choosing yourself, but it's so, so important.
Yeah.
Me, I'm celebrating my wins. I told people I was coming here. I was like, I'm going to be on a podcast, so I'll go ahead and sign autographs afterwards, just so we're clear.
I love it. So when I started, I made this statement that what if everything you've been told about success and security is actually holding you back from true freedom? And for some of us, success and security is a marriage, even if it's not what we want it to be, right? Even there's no passion and we're like ships in the night or roommates, whatever. For some of us, it's, oh my God, I'm in this job. I've been in this job. I've been doing it. I'm doing all the right things. Or I have enough to pay my bills. Or whatever safety and security and success kind of means. And what are maybe 3 things you would share to challenge that status quo statement if someone is feeling this call to do more and just is overwhelmed by the enormity of what they think they have to do?
I honestly feel, man, I'm the person to ask about that kind of stuff. Which is not good because I used to be an investment advisor. I always spend as if the money is going to come regardless. Do I have for my retirement? Do I have? Absolutely. If you can put in your mind that you're never going to have enough money to retire, enough money to go here, enough money. It's what is feeding your soul.
Wow. Yeah.
Financially, to me, finances are huge, especially when you're a one income parent with 2 grown men. I want to be able to give back to them.
You can totally give them a shout out if you want.
Alex and Sebastian, whoop, whoop. One thing, as soon as I got divorced, this is how the mentality had to switch.
Yeah.
One of the main things I was thinking, how am I ever going to be able to take them on these luxury vacations?
Yes.
How is that one of the first things as a divorced woman that's trying to figure out how am I going to put food on the table? How is that one of my main concerns?
It's a core value for you.
100%.
Variety and
it was
traveling the world and like exploring. I get it.
It was.
Get it.
And one thing that my kids taught me right out of the divorce, because I wanted to buy them like a car and both of them were like, that has nothing to do with why we love you so much.
Yeah.
With why we respect your choices and what you've done. I'm telling you that both of these kids have graduated. They've done amazing things, and they're always surrounded by parents that will tell me, which to me as a parent, best thing I can ever hear somebody else say, what a great job you did with Sebastian. What a great man is Alex. I'm done. mic
put a
down,
pin in
put
it.
a pin in it. It's the best.
I
But
love it.
be able to really sit in those things as well, to
Yeah.
be able to teach what you feel you've learned in your darkest, but also in your highest moments. And, you know, have them also implement that in their lives. Because right now they're a different generation altogether, and they have different obstacles that we never had, you know, ourselves. I know I just went off the path.
No, you're good. I think one of the things, I have teenagers. So I have a 18-year-old right now as of this recording and a 14-year-old, Alyssa and Adam. And one of the things that in my age group with kids that age we grapple with is this concept of allowing them to freely do what they want to do, in the sense of, especially when it comes to college, and not micromanaging the process. And for me, success and security in the past would have meant I want to ensure that they have a college degree and they are surrounded by the right people and they have a good internship, like all of the stepping stones that we were voluntold to do, and being okay with them fumbling it and just figuring it out themselves and not having a dog in the fight until I'm asked to step into the arena.
That's huge.
Listen, even saying it now, I want to be like, I am swallowing bile as we speak, right? Like literally my primal instinct is to dive in and do it for them to ensure that they don't fail, be hurt, disappointed, not have the future that I want them to have. And I have to be like, whoa. Everything that's made me a worthy opponent has been failure.
110%.
Right? So if you are playing it safe with whatever, and because you don't want to fail, it creates you haven't found the worthy opponent.
I so agree with that. And I will tell you, because I'm 6 years out of that now with the boys,
Yeah.
the lessons that they will tell you now that they've learned were not when I saved them or not when I came in with the cape.
Yeah.
It's when I let them literally start to drown on their own.
Yeah.
I will tell you that my oldest, Alex, was not a good person with money. And I'll never forget, my best friend has a son with Down syndrome that's 24.
My brother has Down syndrome.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we have so much. It's insane, because that's my thing as well. But I'm a badass. If I have to be mom and dad, that's what I am. You can come to me about sex, drugs, about anything. This kid went and spent the money that I was sending him for food. He spent it on fraternity stuff. And he called me at the end of the week. He said, I have no money for groceries. And I said to him, I guess you're going to eat air and be on a diet.
Right. Or wash dishes in the back of like.
For the next 3 days, you're going to figure it out. Go eat your oodles to noodles. Do what. Did it make me sick? I was sitting there like,
You're such
I'm not going to sleep. But let me tell you, never again has that ever happened. And he will bring that up. He's like, do you remember when? I was like, I do. But it did teach him. Like he never did. If I would have gone in and said, let me sell you another 100 and I've got you, like I guarantee you I would have been doing that 3-4 times.
That's a good lesson for me too, because I, growing up kind of on an island in a third world country, and I tell people, I was like, your frame of reference is different from my frame of reference. Like, have you ever had to like fill your own bucket of water and like bring it to the bathroom to take a shit? No? Okay, good.
Like what?
Step back.
Hurricane. No.
So that I have to watch that too, because sometimes someone's version of hardship is so different from yours. And there has to be empathy and compassion if we are to kind of get along, both in business and personal, with, okay, I may not agree that your challenge is as big as what I would assume is a challenge, but I'll meet you where you are. Yeah. And that goes a long way. I love that. Absolutely. Sandra, thank you so much for joining me today.
Look at us. That was so fun. It went by so quick.
Oh my God.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. So I want to say that today we talked a lot about resilience. We talked about strategies as a single parent. I loved our conversation about making a decision to get a divorce because you wanted more. not necessarily because something detonated.
Correct.
That's such a unique perspective, I think, because a lot of people stay in relationships because they're like, oh, and he said it to you.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
Look at me now, boo.
I love it. I love it so much. I want to say, if you're ready to live unapologetically, and you are ready to go beyond the status quo, and you are ready to see what else is out there, it doesn't have to be always a big momentous occasion or event, but it has to be a big momentous decision. Because in that decision, there are going to be a million things that are going to go right, wrong, and indifferent. But in making the decision to step forward into a new normal, man, you learn so much, right? I love it. We've already done the quo. And as we know, life is richer and bolder on the other side. Sandra, how can they find you if they are interested in Unapologetic, the brand, and just you in general?
Reach out to me on Instagram, 808 Unapologetic. Follow us, and you can take a look at the website. It's connected to Shopify. I'm starting a TikTok shop account. Yes, I have some beautiful girls from FGCU that are my models now, so shout out to them. But absolutely, and if anybody wants to DM me about anything else, they're going through struggles, and, they need an ear, I'll put you on my tier 3 to start. Reach out.
Beautiful. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I want to invite you to join our Beyond the Quo community. Follow us on social media, share your thoughts, connect with others on this journey as we redefine success outside of the status quo. If Sandra's story inspired you, please share this episode with someone that you think would benefit from it. And I invite you to join us every week as we talk more cool stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.